Good morning, my darlings. It has been a very long time since I've done a report like this. We're going to talk about several things. The ominous things, the threatening things. And before we get started, I'm going to put out that whole thing about this is not about fear, right? It's not about fear. It's about being prepared and looking and seeing what's coming. So, in the last few years, things have been a little crazy. And we've seen things in the news, politically, financially, pretty much in every realm of society, escalate hugely over the last few years. And we've had lots of people out there, myself included, screaming and shouting and warning about the stuff that's coming, etc. And one of the things that we know, and if you follow my show, The Unfuck It Discussion, you know that I've been talking about this for a long time, is that they always let us kind of know what's coming. Now, whether you want to say that that's lore or law, that they must, universal law, that they have to let us know in advance so that therefore they gather tacit consent or implied consent, etc., or whether it's just a fact. When these things, crazy events happen, there's always whispers about it. There's always little bits and pieces, and a lot of the time, sometimes we miss those pieces. And you know, what's the old expression? Hindsight is 20/20, where you can look back and go, "Oh, look." I.e., for example, in November of 2019, when a certain philanthropist, who shall remain unnamed, because I want to put this on YouTube and I want to try and say these things without getting myself shut down again, took part in that event where they simulated pandemic and how that would happen. And then, of course, several months later, simulation became a reality. That's all I'm going to say on that subject. You were all there. You all went through it. You know what I'm talking about. Certain pieces have always been there for us to see. And today I want to talk about, we're going to go back and revisit deagle.com. But I want to start off with a few little pieces. So we know the news, well, besides, lying outrageously, we know that the news drops us pieces, and you can call it predictive programming, or you can say it's them letting you know what's coming if you're actually paying attention. This has happened over and over and over. It's not even under discussion anymore. So one of the things I talk about all the time, or used to, is of course solar weather. and geomagnetic storms and solar flares, etc. And I'm going to show you some stuff that's just recently happened, because the last couple of days has been rather trying for some of us. And I'm going to talk about that aspect of predictive programming, if you will, or prepping the population in advance of an event through the media. So I'm going to take you on a little walk. You're going to have to bear with me. I'm kind of doing this on the fly. I just really feel the need to get this information out, so it may not be the most organized. Okay, so we are on SolarHam. SolarHam.net is probably, if you're looking for keeping track of what's going on in solar events, geomagnetic storms, things like that, this is a really good, simple site to just at a glance be able to see what's going on. So we had, let's go down here. Yesterday was a really bad day. Well, actually, I shouldn't say just yesterday. A lot of people got shook a bit. We had a virtually X class. It was an M9.8, like you might as well have called it X class. Solar flare a few days ago. It was directly Earth facing. And a lot of people got rocked by it, even when it first went off, into the lead up of that coronal mass ejection actually hitting the planet, which happened yesterday. As you can see, we topped out at a KP7. Which is a pretty serious geomagnetic storm. A lot of people are, like I said, it was physically felt, a lot of people talking about it. We're in an active time of the sun right now. So these type of events are increasing in number, increasing in strength. And in the same time, our geomagnetic shield, the force field of the planet, is weakening. So therefore, as the geomagnetic shield weakens, these solar events, cosmic ray events, etc., when they come in, we feel them far more strongly because we don't have as good a protective element to keep us under the dome, so to speak. What we've watched over the years, when I first started putting out solar reports, so we're talking 2013, is we've watched how the news will drop in a piece. And it used to be, back then, every year or two, you would get a major news story would come out. Solar flare, it's coming. It could wipe out the electrical grid. Everyone be afraid. And those would happen every 1 or 2 years. And then they started to get more frequent. So we would get those stories once a year. Then it was like around 2018, it was 19, it was 2000, like once every 6 months. Then when we got into about, the last year and a half, those numbers of those news stories have radically increased. We're now seeing them almost every couple of months. All you have to do is a quick search on Google to take a look. 3 weeks ago, solar superstorm could wipe out the internet for months, scientists say. Rare solar storm could blast power grids more likely in the coming years. Solar storm could wipe out the internet for weeks or months, scientists say. Next big solar storm could fry the grid. And these are right across the board, from Business Insider, Fox Weather, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Live Science, CNN, Business Insider again. And you'll notice the dates. Quite literally in the last 6 months, these news stories have been coming out almost once a month. And I've said on the Unfuck It discussion, they're preparing the public. They're prepping everyone. Not necessarily, though, for a solar storm. What they're preparing the public for is for the internet to go down, for the electric grid to go down. So there was a video that came out. I caught it yesterday. I don't normally watch Redacted. he occasionally has guests on that I really, really don't trust. But he had Whitney Webb on. Now, if you don't know who Whitney Webb is, she is probably one of the best journalists we have in the world at the moment as an investigative journalist. She is absolutely brilliant at digging out the facts, not making wild hypotheses, not mad theories. She is not a conspiracy theorist. She literally digs and finds all the bits and the pieces and all the facts, and then has the ability to bring them all together and form a picture. Now, this one here, she's exposing the WEF, the World Economic Forum, false flag coming in 2024. I will put the link to this down below in the RTS Earth article that will go along with this video. I highly recommend that you watch this. Now, I do not, and I say this all the time on shows, I don't necessarily agree with all of her conclusions, but the information she's bringing forward is very telling. It's very telling. And in the opening of this, she's talking about the Cyber Polygon event. So you guys may remember, because this has been talked about a lot. Cyber Polygon is another one of those events that they put together to test the cybersecurity of the world and whether it's, how safe is everything going to be. Now, it's been well spoken about. The WEF is one of the main pushers of this, if you will. This is out of Forbes from February of this year. Cyber Apocalypse 2023, is the world heading for a catastrophic event? And it talks about the 2023 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Davos, we so love Davos. The forum managing director revealed 93% of those surveyed believe that a catastrophic cybersecurity event is likely in the next 2 years. They actually went even stronger on this in some of the statements that have been made by Schwab and his ilk is categorically saying there will be a catastrophic cyber event before 2025. When these guys make these kind of statements, we need to take note. And again, it's not about the fear porn. It's not about, oh, they're just trying to make everyone afraid because they're trying to convince everyone to go into their little safe cities, their little 15-minute cities. That's another whole discussion. I don't even want to get into that today. It's not about the fear porn. It's about they are telling us. So, what does cyber apocalypse and solar flares have in common? The commonality is the taking down of the electrical grid, not just the internet. Because the taking down of the internet is one aspect, and we're going to kind of break this up in a second. But the taking down of the grid. Now, back when Obama was still president, he put out a paper, an executive order, and of course the number has gone right off my head now of which one it was, right towards the end of his term, talking about the threat to the electrical grid and the internet, but the threat to the electrical grid due to an EMP. It was very kind of, oh, is that EMP going to come from the sun? Maybe. But it could also be set off by a nuclear device or a device of such nature by Russia. But he was prepping everything in advance of this is what's coming. That was 2015. When we talk about the internet, and it's really interesting because my husband and I had a conversation just yesterday. I have no idea why it popped into my head, talking about processes, talking about the things that are done during life, jobs, for example, and how highly digitized they've become. To the point of the comment I made was, how many jobs out there have been so digitized now that the people doing the job are no longer capable of being able to do that job in an analog mirrored aspect, i.e., and the comment I was making was actually about boats, ships, if you will, that so much is now digitized that the ship, and because I'd watched something just recently saying about the ship basically parks itself. Well, how many of these ships' captains would actually be able to pull a ship into harbor and park it, so to speak, without a computer? And this goes along like across every single aspect of life, whether we're talking medical, hospital technologies that are now all digitized, all computerized, etc., to banking, to basic fundamental using of equipment in manufacturing, in food processing. Everything has become so automatonized, if you will, that the people who would normally do the job no longer actually know how to do the job. So when we talk about things like a failure of the internet, for example, with everything becoming digitalized online, audio banking specifically, and Whitney Webb does go into this very, very much so, and I'm going to touch on this again in a second, the financial aspect of this. How many people, especially in younger generations, would know how to do anything analog without having a computer online system to walk them through, I don't know, going into the bank and taking money out of the bank, right? Simple things like that. Talking about the financial aspect. And I know I'm jumping around here, guys. I'm really, really sorry. I just have so much in here that I want to say, and I'm trying to make sure I formulate it all. In the interview, Whitney Webb brings up the financial. Now, there's just been a report that's come out, and of course, I can't remember where I saw the numbers, saying they talk about the derivatives markets are now in the quadrillions of dollars. And I've been doing financial reports for 4 years, talking about the fact of they done be fucked. There is nothing they can do to fix the financial markets other than to wipe it all out. In 2019, in September, October, November, December of 2019, I was putting out weekly reports on the show talking about what the Federal Reserve was doing to keep its too big to fail banks solvent. And I was pulling my hair out saying, everything they're doing is literally like putting a Band-Aid on an arterial bleed. This doesn't fix anything. This barely counters everything else that is going on a weekly basis in financial world. And I said, what do they know that's coming that will make all of this a moot point? Roll in 2020, lockdowns, pandemic, etc. And there was a distraction there for a while because, of course, everyone stopped looking at the financial and went, okay, we're looking over here at the lockdowns and all of those things that were going on, mandates, etc. But even then, I kept saying, all of this is so crazy. And again, I have to be really careful how I phrase this because I do want to put this video on YouTube. They can't hide what they've done. They can't hide it. So again, the point I kept bringing up and have been since then is What do they know is coming that will make this all a moot point, that will make it all disappear? Enter Cyberpolygon. Enter WEF, talking about how there will be a catastrophic event. In the world of the internet, there will be a solar flare that is going to take down the electrical grid. And we have dates. We have dates. They've very clearly said by 2025. And those of you who've been around for a while know where I'm going next. Back in 2015, I did a whole series of reports on a strange website called Deagle.com. And I'm not going to go into all of it. You go look up Deagle. It's crazy, crazy, but we're going to talk about some of it. And Deagle was putting out reports. Now, this is a little PDF that I actually found online. So you guys, if you want, can download it off my site. I will actually embed this into the article that will go along with this, just for people to have as a reference. Deagle.com is an official government sponsored. They're a company that works with the government in the in the military industrial complex. And they put out all these reports on who's buying what missiles and tanks, etc. But more importantly, they put out these charts. And when I discovered them in 2015, it was like literally, what? And in these charts, this one is a 2018 chart. Now, I have several charts in my membership site on Fuckers Unite. You guys will know I have my massive library. There is an entire file on Deagle where I have piles of charts that you can go look at. These charts were updated all the time. And as of March 2018, the population of the United States in 2016 was to go from 324 million in 2016 to a forecast that in 2025, the population would drop to 54 million people in America. In the UK, the population would go from 64 million to 14 million. Germany go from 81 million to 31 million. Now, the lists go on and on and on and on and on. And I have done lots of various little bits and pieces. Let's see, do I have the list open? Okay, here's another one here. This one is from 2017, where again, someone has actually taken the information and compiled it onto a single, well, pretty much a single page, so that you can do a comparison. And they've organized it by rate of population change of numbers. So the United Kingdom is number one on the list by losing 77% of its population, followed closely by Ireland, the United States, Puerto Rico, Germany, Luxembourg. And over the years, a lot of us have analyzed these numbers. Over the years, a lot of us have gone through and we've looked at every aspect. What would cause this radical drop in population? And we've analyzed it from geophysical, i.e. where they are, like i.e. is there going to be a massive disaster, a tsunami, an earthquake, a volcano, etc. that's going to cause this. That doesn't fit the profile because you have countries that can be right next to each other, or this one is a massive drop in population and this one actually the population goes up. So it can't be geophysical, as in it cannot be a natural disaster. And watching the Whitney Webb interview, the one thing that all of a sudden jumped out for me, almost every one of the countries that are what we will call the Western first world countries are the most highly computerized, highly digitized populations where a lot of the jobs are no longer performed in those countries, i.e. they're buying everything from outside, manufacturing food. Oh yes, food. And I sat there and was like, that's literally what this Deagle forecast is. They're talking about what is going to happen with this cyber polygon catastrophic event. Because if you look at the list, the countries who have an increase in population or stay relatively the same, when you go down here, let me just slide this down so we can see. So when you talk about ones where they literally, the population actually goes up, Philippines, Zimbabwe, Nepal, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Kenya, Laos, Tajikistan, the Republic of the Congo, Sudan, the poorest countries in the world. The poorest countries being the countries that do not rely on heavily computerized technology for their way of life. Where people in all these other countries here, so we can see, even like big countries like Colombia, Venezuela, Indonesia, where they are going to show growth in population. These countries are more along the lines of self-sufficient. They don't heavily rely as much as Western nations on computerized, digitized everything. People still know how to farm, how to make things, how to fix a car, not just go out and replace it because, gee, I'll just buy a new one. I think it's really important. I think it's really, really important for people to be aware of this. I don't do dates. You guys all know, anyone who's followed me knows that I hate dates. Absolutely hate dates because dates are made to be broken, apparently. Every time someone prognosticates a specific date of something to happen, something inevitably changes that. But in this case, we've been wondering since 2015, what's so special about 2025? What's going to happen to cause this massive drop in population? And now we have people from the WEF saying there will absolutely be a catastrophic cyber attack by 2025. We have the cyber polygon stuff. And if you go out and you look now, the bits of predictive programming, if you want to call it that, around this are huge, absolutely huge. Never before have we lived in a time where perhaps it's going to be the old fogies like us who grew up in a time where we didn't have computers or internet, digital banking, or digital everything. Then maybe it's going to be us who's going to have to save the asses of all the younger generations who are going to be, what's the expression? Up Shit's Creek without a paddle. Because they have no reference point. We may forget about it because it was a long time ago. We grew up in eras where we still did things. We still manually did things. We went to the bank and we took out money and we balanced our bank book. And we knew how to make food and we knew how to sew, etc. We still had, economics in schools. The time is coming very, very quickly when everything could be quite literally on its head. And this is the time of getting all your ducks in a row and making sure you are prepared for the shit that's going to come. I'm not saying it's naturally going to come. I'm not saying that it's going to be a massive solar flare, although God knows with what's been going on, it could be. But regardless, instead of arguing what it is or isn't, what it will be or what it won't be, we need to kind of unite and be like, okay, we see what's coming. We need to get prepared. We have some shit to deal with. And that goes into, listening to all your prepper friends. And maybe I'll have to dust off all my prepper talks and do another recording and talking about food prep and learning learning how to do things for yourself, etc. I'm not going to do that here and now. We need to be prepared. And we are seriously now at the time where we need to circle the wagons. We need to circle the wagons and build those communities. We're pretty much almost out of time now. Do I hope that they're all wrong? Do I hope that something will magically happen to make this not happen? Yep. But all the things that we're seeing are showing us that that's what's coming. Again, it's not about fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. The more knowledge you have, the less fear you have. And it's really, really important right now to collect knowledge. It's really, really important right now to dust off the old skills, perhaps learn some new skills. Sooner or later, I think we're going to need them. And that's all I have to say about this for now. But like I said, I guarantee I'll be digging into this week's Unpockets discussion for sure. But for now, I say goodbye to you guys. And I'll see you soon.